Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We publish new videos every day. Don't forget, grab your smartphone and download the Lava Matra app and stay in touch. Guru Maharaj's message is your advantage. The following is a Sri Krishna Chaitanya book compilation given by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj on October 23rd, 2021 in Sri Mayapur, India.
Pangung Langayate Girim
Yati Sadhavan Mande
Shri Gurum Deenatarinam
Paramanandavadavam
Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram
Harihi Om Tat Sat.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we will continue with the compilation of Sri Krishna Chaitanya book. Today's chapter is entitled Offences and Weeds to be Removed to Protect the Bhaktilata Creeper. Under the section, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Srila Rupa Goswami. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19.156.
অপক্ষ অবস্থায় বৈষ্ণব অপরাধ হই সাধন পথে সর্বপ্রধান বিঘ্ন যদি বৈষ্ণব অপরাধ উঠে হাতি মাথা উপড়ে বা ছিন্নে তার শুকি যায় পাতা.
The devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world. His offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One's devotional attitude increases in the association of a Vaishnava. Tader charana shebi bhakta shanivash janame janame hoy ei obhilash. By his personal example, Narottam Das Thakur stresses that a devotee must always remember to please his predecessor Acharya. The Goswamis are represented by one's spiritual master. One cannot be an Acharya, spiritual master, without following strictly in the disciplic succession of the Acharyas. One who is actually serious about advancing in devotional service should desire only to satisfy the previous Acharyas. Echai Goshai Jar Muitar Dar. One should always think of oneself as the servant of the Acharyas, and thinking this, one should live in the society of Vaishnavas. However, if one thinks that he has become very mature and can live separate from the association of Vaishnavas and thus gives up all the regulative principles due to offending a Vaishnava, one's position becomes very dangerous. Offences against the holy name are explained in Adi Leela, chapter 8, verse 24. Giving up the regulative principles and living according to one's whims is compared to a mad elephant, which by force uproots the bhakti lata and breaks it into pieces. In this way, the bhakti lata shrivels up. Such an offense is especially created when one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called Gurur Avagya. The devotee must therefore be very careful not to commit offences against the spiritual master by disobeying his instruction. As soon as one is deviated from the instructions of the spiritual master by uprooting, the bhakti lata begins and gradually all the leaves dry up.
If the devotional creeper is uprooted,
If the devotional creeper is uprooted,
it doesn't immediately dry up.
it doesn't immediately dry up.
But since its root is not getting any more water,
Since its root is not getting any more water,
the leaves gradually dry up.
the leaves gradually dry up.
And this Vaishnava Aparad is worse offense.
This Vaishnava aparat is worse offense.
And one can, by committing a Vaishnava aparat,
By committing
devotional progress will be checked.
By committing Vaishnava aparat, one's devotional progress will be checked.
Sometimes aparat may be, Vaishnava aparat may be not respecting the previous acharya previously. Probably.
Sometimes Vaishnava aparat may be not respecting the previous acharyas properly,
Or maybe by some direct offense.
or maybe by some direct offense.
In any case, one should guard against any kind of Vaishnava aparat.
In any case, one should guard against of any kind of Vaishnava aparat. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19.157
নাম অপরাধ হইতে সাবধানতাই শ্রেয়, কারণ তাতে মালি যত্ন করি করে আবরণ, অপরাধ হস্তি জইছে না হয় উদ্গম।
The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offences may not enter. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. While the Bhakti creeper is growing, the devotee must protect it by fencing it all around. The neophyte devotee must be protected by being surrounded by pure devotees. In this way, he will not give the maddened elephant a chance to uproot his bhakti creeper. When one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Ashashanga Tyag e Vaishnava Achar. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the company of non-devotees. The so-called mature devotee, however, commits a great offense by giving up the company of pure devotees. The human being is a social animal, and if one gives up the society of pure devotee, he must associate with non-devotees, Ashat Sangha. By contacting non-devotees and engaging in non-devotional activities, a so-called mature devotee will fall victim to the mad elephant offense. Whatever growth has taken place is quickly uprooted by such an offense. One should therefore be very careful to defend the creeper by fencing it in. That is, by following the regulative principles and associating with pure devotees.
Feeling offense on your creeper means to avoid any kind of offense.
So creating a fence around a creeper means avoiding making any kinds of offense.
And that can be achieved if you associate with pure devotees.
That can be achieved if you can associate with pure devotees.
If you give up the company of pure devotees
If you give up the company of pure devotees
and associate with non-devotees,
and associate with the non-devotees,
intimately, then that lets that elephant inside the area and uproot your creeper.
immediately it lets the mad elephant inside and it uproots the creeper. If one thinks that there are many pseudo-devotees or non-devotees in the Krishna consciousness society, still one should stick to the society. If one thinks the society's members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master. And if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. However, unless one follows the spiritual master's instruction concerning the regulative principle and chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, one cannot become a pure devotee. By one's mental concoction, one falls down. By associating with non-devotees, one breaks the regulative principle and it is thereby lost.
One protects the devotional creeper by strictly following instructions of his guru,
So one perfects his devotional creeper by strictly following the instruction of his guru
by associating with pure devotees.
by associating with pure devotees. In Upadeshamrita 2, Srila Rupa Goswami, of Srila Rupa Goswami it is said, Atyaharas prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha sadbir bhaktir vinashyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to attain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulation only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievement.
Of these principles of the Upadeshamrita
So these principles of the Upadeshamrita
are to be adhered to
are to be adhered to
if one wants to make progress
if one wants to make progress
in their bhakti yoga.
in their Bhakti Yoga. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19.158.
ভক্তির ন্যায় আকৃতি বা সৌসাদৃশ্য থাকিলেও ভক্তি নহে, এমন অভক্তিসমূহ। কিন্তু যদি লতার সঙ্গে উঠে উপশাখা, ভক্তি মুক্তি বাঞ্ছা যত অসংকতার লেখা।
Sometimes unwanted creepers such as the creepers of desire for material enjoyment and liberation from material world grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited.
Are very important to focus all your energy on pure devotional activities.
So it's very important to focus all our energy on pure devotional service,
Not be distracted by any of the other creepers, which are like weeds,
not to be distracted by any other creepers which are like weeds,
and take the energy from the devotional creeper.
and take the energy from the devotional creeper. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19.159.
নিষিদ্ধাচার কুটিনাটি জীবহিংসন, লাভ পূজা প্রতিষ্ঠাদি যত উপশাখাগণ।
Some unnecessary creepers growing with the Bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection: diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, this is a certain pattern of behavior prescribed for those actually trying to become perfect. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we advise our students not to eat meat, not to gamble, not to engage in illicit sex, and not to indulge in intoxication. But people who indulge in these activities can never become perfect. Therefore, these regulative principles are for those interested in becoming perfect and going back to Godhead. Kutinati or diplomatic behavior cannot satisfy the Atma, the soul. It cannot even satisfy the body or mind. The culprit mind is always suspicious. Therefore, our dealings should be always be straightforward and approved by Vedic authorities. If we treat people diplomatically or dupliciously, our spiritual advancement is obstructed. Jivhimsa refers to the killing of animals or to envy other living entities. The killing of poor animals is undoubtedly due to envy of those animals. The human form is meant for the understanding of Krishna consciousness, atato Brahma Jijnasa, for inquiring about the Supreme Brahman. In the human form, everyone has a chance to understand the Supreme Brahman. The so-called leaders of human society do not know the real aim of human life and are therefore busy with economic development. This is misleading. Every state and every society is busy trying to improve the quality of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This human form of life is meant for more than this for animal principles. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are problems found in the animal kingdom, and the animals have solved these problems without difficulty. Why should human society be so busy trying to solve these problems? The difficulty is that people are not educated to understand this simple philosophy, to think that advancement of civilization means increasing sense gratification.
There are
There are four
perfections in material life.
There are four perfections in material life:
Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha.
dharma, artha, kama, moksha.
Most people are interested in performing some religious activity or to get more money,
Most people
get
are
more sense gratification.
More people are interested in performing some religious activity to get more money and to do more sense gratification.
Only very few people are interested in achieving moksha, liberation.
But only few people are interested in getting moksha or liberation.
Lord Chaitanya taught that beyond these four things, the fifth perfection is love for Krishna.
And Lord Chaitanya taught that beyond these four things, there is the fifth perfection, that is love of Krishna.
That is the actual purpose of human life.
And that is the actual purpose of human life.
Human beings are only interested in economic development and sense gratification.
But human beings are only interested in economic development and sense gratification.
And they're like sophisticated animals.
They are like sophisticated animals. There are many religious propagandists who do not know how the ultimate problems of life can be solved. And they also try to educate people in a form of sense gratification. This is also Jiva Himsa. Real knowledge is not given and religion is misled the general populace. As far as material profits are concerned, one should know that whatever material profit one has must be abandoned at the time of death. Unfortunately, people do not know that there is life after death. Therefore, mundane people waste their time amassing material profit which has to be left behind at the time of death. Such profit has no eternal benefit. Similarly, adoration by mundane people is valueless because after that one has to accept another body. Material adoration and titles are decoration that cannot be carried over the next body. In the next life, everything is forgotten. Above all these obstructions have been described in this verse as unwanted creepers. They simply present obstacles in the real creeper of Bhakti Lata. One should be very careful to avoid all these unwanted things. Sometimes these unwanted creepers look exactly like the Bhakti creeper. They appear to be of the same size and the same species when they are packed together with the Bhakti creeper. But in spite of this, the creepers are called Upashaka. A pure devotee can distinguish between the Bhakti creeper and a mundane creeper. and he is very alert to distinguish them and keep them separate.
So, motivation of Bhakti Kripa is to please Krishna.
So the motivation of the Bhakti Kripa is to please Krishna.
He leads the Upasakas. The objective is impersonal sensuality.
The weeds, the Upashaka, the objective is for personal sense gratification.
Activities which are against devotional life.
Activities that are against devotional life.
Religious activity.
Duplicitous activity.
Enviousness against living entities.
Enviousness against living entities.
Desire for profit.
Desire for profit.
For adoration.
For adoration.
Some mundane importance.
And some mundane importance.
All these things are distraction from the real Bhakti Lota.
All these things are distraction from the real Bhakti Lota.
The devotional Kripa.
The devotional Kripa.
Which is to please Krishna.
Which is to please Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19.160
প্রশ্রয় দিলে অভক্তির বুদ্ধি হেতু ভক্তির শৈথিল্য বরণ সম্ভাবনা শিক জল পাইয়া উপশাখা বাড়ি যায় স্তব্ধ হইয়া মূল শাখা বাড়িতে না পায়.
If one does not distinguish between the Bhakti Creeper and the other creeper, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the Bhakti Creeper is curtailed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, if one chants Hare Krishna mantra while committing offences, these unwanted creepers will grow. One should not take advantage of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra for some material benefit, as mentioned in verse 159, Nishiddhachar Kutinati Jeev Imshan Lav Puja Pratishtadi Jato Upashaka Gan. These unwanted creepers have been described by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He states that if one hears and chants without trying to give up offences, one becomes materially attached to sense gratification. One may also desire freedom from material bondage like Mayavadis, or one may become attached to Yoga Siddhis and desire wonderful yogic powers. If one is attached to wonderful material activities, one is called Siddhilobhi, greedy for material perfection. One may also be victimized by diplomatic and crooked behavior. One may associate with women for illicit sex. One may make a show of devotional service like Prakrita Sahajyas, or one may try to support his philosophy by joining some caste and identifying himself with a certain dynasty, claiming a monopoly on spiritual advancement. Thus, with the support of family tradition, one may become a pseudo guru or a so-called spiritual master. One may become attached to the four sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. Or one may consider a Vaishnava to belong to a mundane caste or creed. One may think, this is a Hindu Vaishnava and this is a European Vaishnava. European Vaishnavas are not allowed to enter the temples. In other words, one may consider Vaishnavas in terms of birth, thinking one a Brahmana Vaishnava, another a Shudra Vaishnava, another a Mlecha Vaishnava, and so on. One may also try to carry out professional business by means of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Or one may try to increase his monetary strength by illegal means. Also, one may become a cheap Vaishnava by trying to chant in a secluded place for material adoration. Or one may desire mundane reputation by making compromises with non-devotees concerning one's philosophy or spiritual life, or one may become a supporter of a hereditary caste system. All these are pitfalls of personal sense gratification. Just to cheat some innocent people, one makes a show of an advanced spiritual life and becomes known as a sadhu, mahatma, or religious person. All this means that the so-called devotee has become victimized by all these unwanted creepers, and that the real creeper of Bhakti Lata has been stunned.
So here, Srila Prabhupada has detailed how one actual Bhakti Kripa has become stunted by the water going to these other desires.
So here Srila Prabhupada describes in detail how one's Bhakti Lata can become stunted and the water goes to the other creeper by watering the other creepers.
If one desires these other things,
if one desires these other things,
the Bhakti Kripa gets stunted.
These Bhakti creepers get stunted.
But these things are very subtle.
So these things are very subtle.
But one has to be very careful.
But one has to be very careful.
Not to take some weed as a real creeper.
Not to take some upashaka or weed to be real creeper. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19.161.
প্রথমেই সাধকের দুঃখ সঙ্গোৎসর্গের ব্যবস্থা আবশ্যক। প্রথমেই উপশাখার করয়ে ছেদন, তবে মূল শাখা বাড়ি যায় বৃন্দাবন।
As soon as an intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata, grows nicely, returns home, back to Godhead, and seeks the shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna.
Haribo!
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 Haribo! Jai Guru Maharaj. Purport by Srila Prabhupada: if one is misled by unwanted creepers and is victimized, he cannot make progress back to Godhead. Rather, he remains within the material world and engages in activities having nothing to do with pure devotional service. Such a person may be elevated to a higher planetary system, but because he remains within the material world, he is subjected to the threefold material miseries.
Pure chanting is transcendental.
Pure chanting is transcendental.
But these upasakas or weeds give some material motivation for chanting.
But these upashakas or weeds give some material motivation for chanting.
And thus, if one is chanting, they get pious results, and then they take birth in a higher planet.
So because once he's chanting, he may get pious result, so he may end up taking birth in higher planets.
Well, he cannot go back to Godhead.
But he cannot go back to Godhead.
So to get pure bhakti, you need to cut out any kind of alternative desire.
So to get pure bhakti, we need to cut out any kinds of alternative desires. Thus ends the chapter entitled Offences and Weeds to be Removed to Protect the Bhakti Lata Creeper. Under the section, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Srila Rupa Goswami.
Do you like our ad-free videos? Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We publish new videos every day, and don't forget to like and share our channel.